Hi everyone, I'm Monique and today I've got a new layout for Lottie Loves Paper using the amazing colour study collection by Vicki Boutin. So I'm starting off with my 4 little photos in black and white and this beautiful sheet of patterned paper called Colour Wheel. Now I have used this patterned paper before, but I just love it so much so I couldn't pass up the opportunity to use it again. So I've just cut out all those wedges and now I'm taking a sheet of Vicki Boutin's mixed media paper because I want to add some extra colour to the background. Now I'm taking those wedges and I'm just layering them together to form a bit of a semicircle, and I'm then taking some extra pieces of patterned paper from the collection just to dot in amongst those wedges, just to add a little bit of variety with the different patterns and to add more colours to that rainbow spectrum. And now I'm just freehand cutting these wedges. I do use some spare wedges from the Colour Wheel patterned paper just to make the curve at the top similar to the rest, but I'm not too worried if some are thicker and some are thinner. It all adds to the interest of the page with them being a little bit different. Now I've marked out the edges because I want to add a little bit of mixed media, so I just want to have a rough idea of where my paint needs to start from, and I'm actually using some Ecoline inks. I used these recently on a layout and the colours are just so vibrant and bright and I just love the intense colour. So I've just added some water to my page. I've just added a little bit where I'm going to be adding that dark blue, and then I'm adding some ink. Now, before I add the next colour, I then add some water to the background, and I try to leave a little gap between the colours so that they don't immediately blend together, just so that I've got a bit more control of the mixing process. I do love seeing the colours flowing into each other, but if I'd made the whole page wet first, there would be very little chance that I'd be able to control where those colours go to. So I found it worked quite well just to do one wet spot at a time and then to slowly merge the colours together to get a nice even flow amongst them. Now this is only the second time I'm using these inks, and I had them actually sitting on my shelf for quite a long time before I started using them, and I can't stress enough, just play. If mixed media daunts you, just play. That is the best way to figure out what you're doing and to see how the different mediums work. And I really had so much fun playing with these different colours and finding out the best way to mix them and what colours I could make, and it really is just so much fun. So if mixed media frightens you a little bit, just give it a go, grab a piece of paper and just have some fun with it.
You said it was the last time, but you keep coming back to tell me you're sorry that you take back all the things you said just to hurt me. Our love just went cold, but I'm still.
Now that everything is dry, I'm just coming back in with all those colourful wedges and layering them in place just to see where their perfect spot is before sticking them all down.
Our love just went cold. Why? I keep on making the same mistake. I always let you back.
Now to back my photos. I've got this lovely sheet of patterned paper called Abstract, and I'm using the B side, and I'm just sticking all my photos down and I'm giving each one a thin border, and I'm going to cut them all apart before adding a thin little black doodled border around each one. I wanted the photo mounts to be quite neutral and subtle because the background of the layout is going to be really vibrant and bright. So that grid pattern paper worked really well. It's lovely and neutral, as well as having a little bit of interest with its subtle pattern. I want to add a few little tabs to each photo, so I'm using the tab stamp from one of the colour study stamp sets, and I've just stamped it in black and I'm cutting them out, and then I'm going to use these cute little word stickers that say what, where, when and who, and I'm just going to be tucking those in the top of each photo.
I begin to get myself together again. You are back once more, like everything's the same. I tried to build my walls up, but you're taking them down.
Now it's time to stick down all those colourful wedges. Now I do want to add a little bit of dimension to them, so some are going to be stuck directly onto the background and others are going to be raised slightly, but just on one side of the wedges. So taking a thin strip of craft foam, which I stick down just on one side of the wedge, and then I use my tape runner directly onto the rest of the wedge so that one side is sticking directly onto the background and the other side is raised slightly. Now, as I go along, I do trim down some of the wedges, and that's totally okay. Things sometimes do change as you're going along, and they just worked better being slightly different sizes and having some really skinny little wedges and some fatter wedges as well.
I can't pretend. Now I have to get over you again. You said it was the last time, but you keep coming back to show me. Sorry you have changed now, but it's the same old story. Our love just went cold, but I'm still burning. Our love just went cold. Why? I keep on making the same.
Now I really felt like I needed to add a little neon pop to this page, so I've done a little bit of neon yellow stitching along some of those wedges, and I've also underlined the text at the top of each of those photos on the tabs. And my last little pop of neon is this kind of like scribbly stitch that I've done underneath that title on this lovely ephemera piece from the Colour Study collection. Now I've also used another little piece of that grid paper that I used to back the photos, and I've used my note paper edge punch just to make it look like a piece of note paper tucked behind the title, and there's that lovely ephemera bulldog clip piece that I'm going to use to kind of clip it all together. Now because my background is various heights and it would be super tricky to get my foam squares all the right height so that my photos lay evenly, I've decided just to use some silicone glue to stick my photos down. What I love about silicone glue is you can plonk some on the back without too much thought, and then you can kind of just squish it down until it's the right level that you need it to be. So I find I can manipulate it really well, and it's really easy to use. The one thing with silicone glue is I do need to be relatively confident about where I'm going to be sticking things down, because once you've stuck it down, it does take a long time to dry, so you can move things, but it does make a bit of a mess if you do try to move things into completely different positions. Now I've just stuck down my title piece, which couldn't be more perfect for my kids and their friends from school and their fun adventures in the play park. And here I've got another little text piece, which is also from the Colour Study ephemera pack, before grabbing one of the stamps and just doing some tone-on-tone stamping using that kind of little flower starburst stamp. And I'm doing a few impressions with the same inking, so I'm stamping it down once and then again, and sometimes a third time using the same ink that I stamped down originally. So I just feel this adds a little bit of extra interest to the page.
I always let you back in when I begin to get myself together again. You are back once more like everything.
Now I always find it hard to say that I'm done. I always want to add more to a page. So I've taken this cute little butterfly stamp, which I've not actually used yet, and it is so cute. So I've just done some stamping on some offcuts from those extra wedges that I cut out, and I'm just going to cut them out and I'm going to stick them down, again doing some tone-on-tone decorating, so they just add a little bit of subtle interest to the page. It's nothing too in your face, it's quite subtle because it is tone on tone. And how I'm sticking these down this time, I'm not using my silicone glue for a change, I'm just sticking down one wing flat to the page, and then the wing that's not stuck down is kind of folded up so that it's giving it a little bit of dimension. So now I'm just using some of the black ink, also Ecoline ink, and splattering that on. But I was really silly. I decided to try do a twiddle of neon thread just to tuck in, and I didn't wait for the ink to dry, and then I smudged it and made a big mess which was particularly annoying because I was just about finished and I didn't even end up keeping that neon twiddle of thread in the layout. So you can see there on the right, in a minute you're going to see a little bit of a smudge where I've just touched that ink and just smudged it all over the place. So I first of all started off taking my wet paint brush and trying to paint away the smudges, but I just keep making a bigger mess. So what I ended up doing was going around to all the splatters and kind of loosening up that ink a little bit and making them look a little bit smudgy so that there was some consistency around the page. So I've turned my mess into a purposeful smudgy background. I used to be quite a perfectionist, and I've definitely eased up over the years, and this layout is the perfect example. I'm embracing the mess and just going with it. So now I'm just coming in with a few little black enamel dots. These are things that I love to buy, but then I never use. So I've got a whole stash of them. So I'm trying to use some of them up, and I do love how they look on a page.
You're taking them down. It's tearing me apart. I can't pretend. Now I have to get over you again.
And here is my completed layout, and I just love all these vibrant colors. The Color Study collection is available in the Lottie Loves Paper online store now. Do pop along and check it out. There are so many gorgeous supplies available. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video. If you enjoyed it, I'd be so grateful if you subscribe to my channel. You can also find me on Instagram at handmadehappy by Monique. See you next time. Bye.